Well, friends, they done got us. It's official. If you're listening to this right now, TikTok has been banned in the United States and has gone dark, meaning that nobody in the good old US of A is able to access the app. It's also been removed from the App Store along with Lemonade, CapCut, and a few other apps that were owned by ByteDance. And while I'm sure we have a lot of feelings, and if you're anything like me, a few conspiracy theories about that and what that means, we're going to do first things first. So let me go ahead and do my little intro and then we're going to hop right into it. So welcome to Ceiling Rants. I am your unhinged hostess with the mostest, Champagne Renee. And I wish I could give you a really succinct description of what this podcast is if you're new here, but unfortunately we kind of run the gambit. Ceiling Rants is really nicheless and it's mostly, honestly, more accurately, it's kind of a brain dump of pop culture, current events, parenting, healing, relationships. We just kind of talk about it all here. My goal is to continue to cultivate a space where we can be a little unhinged, but also have some really important discussions about what's going on in the world and online. So whatever it is that you're doing as you join me today, whether that's doing that laundry that's been sitting in the pile in the corner of your room all damn week, or you're listening to this while you drive or cook or whatever it is, I just want to say thank you for hanging out with me. Without y'all, there is no Ceiling Rants. I'm not getting paid for these at this point in my podcast journey. I'm literally just doing this because you guys love them and I got to give the people what they want, okay? I got to give you all the love back that you give me. Okay, so enough talking with the intro. Let's get right on into it. 2025 is ghetto. Okay, 2025 is ghetto as hell. We told 2025 to come in and sit down and be quiet because 2024 whipped our ass, and 2025 walked in here, grabbed some clothes off the rack, walked in the dressing room and started popping tags. She's ghetto as hell, and I am already sick and tired of her. Listen, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like January has been a long ass year. It should be January 19th when you're listening to this. And we're not even done with the month, okay? The first week of January was insane. We had 2 terrorist attacks. We had the guy who ran into a crowd of people in New Orleans. And then we also had somebody else blew up a Tesla in front of the Trump building or Trump Hotel, I think in Vegas. Both of those people were veterans. Both of them were stationed at the same base. Yeah, so I popped away to do a little bit of research. Both of these men were veterans that were both stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. They also both allegedly used the same app to rent the vehicles that were used in these attacks. So Shamoud Din Jabbar, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who was the guy who ran into the crowd on New Year's in New Orleans, and Matthew Livensberger, who blew up the Cybertruck in Vegas in front of the Trump Hotel. Both of them used the app Turo, which I guess is like the Airbnb of car rentals where people can rent out their own personal cars to other people. Now, at present, and this is where my tinfoil hat starts sprouting out of my head, okay? There are no news articles that I could find online that implicate that these 2 attacks are related. There's a bunch that are like kind of speculating, but none that can confirm. And I don't know, it's just pretty suspicious if you ask me that 2 veterans who were previously stationed at the same military base used the same app to facilitate acts of terror 2 days apart from one another. I don't know. I'm no detective, but the math does not appear to be mathing. You're telling me that these 2 share no connection. Yeah, that doesn't add up for me. But then again, math has never been my strongest subject. I don't know. You guys tell me what you guys think. I think there's comments. If you're listening to this on Spotify, I think there are like ways that you can leave me comments so that I can see them. I'll read them and go through them and see what you guys think. But I invite you to give me your opinion on that because I just felt like something was really fishy. And then also it strangely disappeared from headlines. Like everybody just stopped talking about it. And I was like, hey, so like what happened with those guys? Like you can find, articles from when they were published, but like I haven't seen anybody really do any follow-up on them. And then shortly thereafter, we didn't even have time to take a breath, girl. January said, next. Next headline, okay? Next headline was the insane LA fires. Right after those 2 terrorist attacks, I think the fires started on the 7th of January, right? So we went from January 1st, New Orleans to, I think it was January 3rd, was the Cybertruck being blown up in front of the Trump building. Then the 7th, we had the LA fires start with tons of people losing their homes. From my understanding, the fires started in the Palisades and, fueled by the Santa Ana winds, girl. LA always has like an insane drought. I feel like this year's drought was probably much worse, right? There were already kind of like wind warnings and things like that. And it was just a recipe for disaster. The fires ripped through the Pacific Palisades, Malibu, Altadena, and Pasadena, burning down so many communities. Before they got rid of TikTok, girl, I was on there scrolling and looking at the devastation. And when I tell you, not just homes being burned down, communities, okay, other buildings, banks, like just the whole cities, completely and utterly devastated. And to make matters worse, as if Luigi Mangione didn't already usher in a new era of people calling out and pointing out the excessive greed of insurance companies, State Farm had actually canceled a bunch of people's home insurance policies for people living in Pacific Palisades, Altadena, Pasadena, and other fire-prone areas in July of 2024. They just canceled them. And then also, I guess Allstate also stopped writing new policies in California in 2022. So now we have all these people who have lost their homes who aren't going to have insurance coverage on these homes. A lot of people lost everything. And rightfully so, people are calling out these insurance companies for their bullshit. I cannot imagine. And I know that there was a lot of noise online, specifically social media, because the Palisades are a particularly affluent area, right? These are people who have a lot of money, or even they may not even have a lot of money. These homes are just worth a lot. Okay. It's very expensive real estate. Let me tell you something though. It's also Southern California. Okay. Everything is expensive real estate. Okay. The little box house, the little hut in the corner is $500,000. Okay. That's how much that house costs. So, I think people online and social media sometimes don't take that into consideration. These people may not be living lavishly as you may think just because they're living in $1 million home. $1 million home in Southern California doesn't mean what you think it means. And also, like, even those that are, rich or affluent, they could be house poor. And even if they're not, who cares? It doesn't cost anything to have empathy for folks. I can't imagine, even if I was the richest person in the world, my home burning down and me losing, keepsakes for my kids, the blanket that they wrap my kids in when I brought them home for the hospital. I can never replace that, even if I'm a millionaire. Pictures from when I was a child. Those aren't in the cloud. You know what I mean? Some people really lost things that they will never be able to recoup, no matter how much money that they have. And I think that frog in my throat. I'm not going to edit that out. I don't have time. So enjoy that. I think that there is a lack of compassion that is consistently being demonstrated on social media because the news cycle changes so quickly. We are becoming increasingly desensitized to the suffering of other human beings. And that is a problem. We are, it's becoming more difficult for people, I think, as a collective to have empathy for others. And that unfortunately will roll into the real world, right? In real life. I will say though, offline and from what I could see in the resources I was able to share, it did look like there was a huge pool of collective support surrounding and coming in to help those people in LA. There were also some celebrities that lost their homes that, had come out and said hey, I'm house poor. I need help. Specifically, if you guys have ever watched The Hills or Laguna Beach, listen, I'm showing my age right now. Okay. Laguna Beach in The Hills was oh my gosh, that was a cultural moment in MTV history. And everybody knows Spidey or Heidi and Spencer Pratt as being the little villains. And then we later found out reality TV, they were scripting a whole bunch of that bullshit and a lot of it wasn't real. Anyway, but they have kind of had this beautiful redemption arc online where everybody is just cheering for them because Spencer has been going hard on TikTok before they banned it, promoting his wife's music, getting everybody to use the sound so that they could raise money, because they were out on the street, homeless. Their home burned down to the ground. He said, listen, we're house poor. The home was all we had. We are former reality TV stars. We weren't living large. And people collectively kind of chipped in and was thank you for the transparency and, the authenticity and helping them and streaming her songs and promoting and boosting it. And her songs started climbing the charts. It was really a beautiful thing to see. Despite how you may feel about them as people, I just love kind of watching that journey of everybody kind of all hands on deck to help out your fellow man I know some people may think that it's corny, but I really do have a soft spot for like a good redemption arc, and also like just humans doing human stuff, helping one another out. I think that that is our nature. I think that we have been tricked by a lot of this like apocalyptic talk and, you know, a lot of this fear mongering online into believing that people are inherently evil. And I just don't believe that. I think that people operate a lot of times out of fear, and that fear can make you act in selfish ways. But I don't think that anybody, and as a whole, right? Obviously there are exceptions. I'm not talking about serial killers here, people who are narcissists. I'm talking about just the average human being as a whole does not go into the world or walk around in the world with malice and wanting to harm folks. I don't think that that is the norm. And when we trick ourselves into believing that that's the norm, and we believe that we need to fear everyone, we don't seek community with the way that we should in real life. And not having community in real life, if something were to happen, like these natural disasters, you know, SOL. And with them getting rid of TikTok, banning TikTok temporarily, we'll get into that. We're really eliminating another means for people to seek community, to reach out and say, hey, I need help. Instagram's algorithm doesn't work in a way that it would push somebody's reel that's saying, I need help. Can you guys please help? Can you share my video? Can you donate to my GoFundMe? It doesn't get pushed the way that it would on TikTok unless you are a known person, right? Unless you are already a celebrity or a person of note or somebody with a lot of followers. Whereas on TikTok, the algorithm behaved, I'll say behaved because I don't think it's going to be the same algorithm when they give it back to us. Behaved in such a way where you could be someone with like an old Android phone, okay, using the front-facing camera with poor lighting, telling a compelling story and asking for help, and your video could go viral and be seen by millions of people, and you could receive the help that you need. Instagram has never and will never be that girl for authenticity. It's hard. I think we're turning a new page, but I think Instagram in general, the algorithm still favors like very prim. Okay. There are people on TikTok during the TikTok repass who were talking about how, you know, if everybody's saying content creators just migrate over to Reels, girl, Reels will not accept me in a bonnet. Okay. Instagram is real strict. They want you to have makeup on. You got to fly to Dubai every weekend. You got to be rich. You got to be a baddie. You got to have a BBL. You got to have straight teeth. Your makeup got to be perfect. Your wig can't be stiff. Like you have to, like, I swear Instagram feels like a pageant. And I think it stopped a lot of creators from being authentic and showing up authentically because there was a fear that like it's not appropriate on Instagram, right? Like you're supposed to show up on Instagram as your like best self, your complete best self. And you will get the hate comments. I think it just, you have to be in a space where you're willing to deal with the backlash of showing up differently than an app's culture. And the culture on Instagram is prim, proper baddie. Okay. It is not, you know, authentic mom sitting in her pajamas on the floor in her middle-class house with toys scattered around. That's just not the culture. I think that we are slowly changing the tide on that. But at present, your stuff's not getting pushed unless you're a known person or you're paying for Meta verified. Okay. Or you have Meta verified. I think they're making everybody pay for it now, but okay. Also, I would like to just point out that although a lot of people were kind of pushing back a little bit on the support for the LA fires because they were just incorrectly assuming that the only people impacted were people who were very rich. Altadena, which is, you know, historically a predominantly Black middle-class area, was completely devastated as well. And I feel like it didn't get as much press as it should have gotten. There were a lot of people who were impacted. I had, you know, friends send me their friends' GoFundMes that I've shared where they lost their homes, they lost everything. These are not like very wealthy people. These are, you know, middle-class working people, just like many of us, who are not sitting on millions and millions of dollars. And just like I said before, it doesn't matter even if they were, right? This is someone's home. This is something that someone has invested into everything they have. And I think that we do well to remember that empathy goes a long way. Then Atlanta got snow. So we had one side of the country on fire. The other side of the country was snowing, which is unusual for this area. If you guys don't know, I'm a couple hours outside of Atlanta. I'm in Georgia. And we got snow as well. This after just having a literal hurricane in Georgia as well that tore off the siding of our house. Something flew from this across the sky, bitch, and hit our car and like dented in our car. Pieces of our roof flew off. And, you know, we are just recovering from that. And then we get hit with snow. It's supposed to snow again this upcoming week, several inches in Atlanta and Georgia, like, you know, the Georgia suburbs, again, where we live. So, girl, it's just a lot going on. Okay. 2025 came out swinging. And, you know, then we have Biden on his way out, pardoning a bunch of people, yada, yada, yada. Then he gives his like little, what do they call it? His departure speech, his farewell address. Okay. His farewell address to the nation. He warns us of an oligarchy forming in the United States that is very powerful and will be very dangerous. And then he's like, okay, bye. I'm not gonna help with the TikTok ban. I'm not gonna enforce it. I'm not gonna do anything. I am gonna go sit on the beach and sip my ties. Y'all good luck with Trump is basically what he said. He said, I don't care no more. I'm done. And everybody was like, excuse me, what? And in case you don't remember from your like high school government classes, U.S. government classes, an oligarchy is a form of government in which a small group of people have control. So of a country, right? So in this instance, we're talking about a small group of like elites, very rich people, billionaires, okay? Corporations. We are essentially living in a corporate oligarchy, okay? The corporations control this country via lobbyists, okay? I won't go too in depth, but everybody online was like, what's the oligarchy, girl? And so everybody was searching, right? If you weren't already familiar, because we forget things from high school. Folks were looking it up. I think oligarchy was like trending for a while. And I would like to just inform you that America has been an oligarchy. It has been an oligarchy for a minute, okay? I saw this TikTok comment that had me squealing with laughter. And it was, if democracy, why oligarchy shaped? Which is the most fitting thing ever, because America really is like a third world country with a Gucci belt on, okay? The middle class is non-existent. The average person is suffering quite a bit, and the corporations are thriving, surviving, okay? They are 30, flirty, and thriving on our dime, on our taxes. And nothing showed the American public that more than when folks started moving from TikTok to Rednote. If you're not familiar, Rednote is a Chinese app that is like the Chinese equivalent of TikTok. Well, the CEO more accurately said it's China's version of Instagram, but the way that their mechanism for the app is set up, the way their user interface is set up, it feels similar to us as a TikTok. And people were seeing that the propaganda that we were fed about communism, specifically about what life was like in China, is very different from what the reality of what the Chinese people experience or what they were showcasing on that app. They were paying $1 for food that we spent $10 for. They were, their employers were providing food. Their rent was much cheaper than ours. They were surprised by the fact that we paid not only sales taxes on items, but also taxes out of our wages to the government. They were like, why are they double taxing you? Why are you paying property taxes on a home that you own? They were so confused. They were like, wow, sounds like America is more ghetto than we thought it was, because we don't do any of those things. And the Americans were like, what do you mean? And, there kind of started to become a little bit of a rapport between the Americans who joined Rednote that were calling themselves TikTok refugees and the Chinese citizens that were kind of engaging in translating things for everybody who was joining, to say like, oh, so what's the biggest misconception that what's the biggest stereotype that you guys have about Americans? And I said this on my Instagram story too, because it was wild. That many of them said that Americans have the illusion that they are free. And that's like the biggest stereotype that they have about us, or like the biggest thing that they notice about us, is that we believe that we're free, but we're not. And it's apparent to every other country but us. And jaws were dropping. Okay, jaws dropped and rolled across the floor all over Rednote. Everybody has been shocked. And then we roll into the TikTok ban. So Give me 1 second. I'm going to take a quick break to recollect myself. For you, it's going to be a couple of seconds, but I just want to let you know this is going to be the transition where we shift gears into my tinfoil hat conspiracy about the TikTok ban. Okay, so get ready. Okay, before we get into the TikTok ban fully and my conspiracy theories, I just want to make sure I do my due diligence and give you guys a little history lesson on the ban in general. So if you didn't know, the TikTok ban, or concepts of a plan of a TikTok ban, were originally brought forth by Donald Trump in 2020, who publicly stated that he was considering banning TikTok to retaliate against China for what he believed to be mishandling of COVID-19. So this was in July of 2020. And just a quick note, all of this info I'm giving you right now comes directly from the Associated Press. You can find it online if you just search Google for timeline of TikTok ban, because I want to be transparent about my sources, and I also want to make sure I'm giving you sources that are like verifiable for this portion so that you know what it is, what it isn't, and what it might be. Okay, so before I give you my speculation, I'm going to give you like, these are the facts. Okay, this specific article that I'm quoting right now is by David Hamilton of the Associated Press, and it was actually updated recently as well, so you can go check it out. Okay, so from what I understand, and from the article that was posted by the Associated Press, in August of 2020, Trump actually signed an executive order ordering ByteDance to divest and sell any U.S. assets. And this was, again, because of beliefs that TikTok posed a national security threat to the U.S. because the Chinese government had the ability to access and use private data from users. Fast forward to 2021, after Biden is elected president, he postpones Trump's plan to ban TikTok. Then a year later, in April 2022, TikTok becomes the most downloaded app in the world, beating out Instagram. That's not made up. That was actually reported as well in the Associated Press, and you can fact check it. That's also important for my little conspiracy theory later that we'll touch on, okay? So keep that in mind, okay? 2022, TikTok becomes the most downloaded app in the world, beating out Instagram. By December of 2022, the FBI director raises national security concerns again, saying that basically Chinese officials could manipulate the algorithm to influence American citizens. So on a personal note, I want to point out that it seems like we flip-flop, okay, between national security risk because of data and national security risk because of influence on American sentiment about the government. So which is it, or is it both? Okay, now we're in February of 2023, and the White House makes all federal employees delete TikTok from their government-issued mobile devices, which, to be honest, is low-key hilarious, because if you've thought for years that TikTok may be stealing users' data or that they pose a national security list, why did it take you 3 years to make government officials delete that app from their work phones? Please. Government employees' data. Don't you think? Okay, girl. Anyway, so in March of 2023, we get TikTok CEO Shu Chu. I feel like I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I know his name is Shu, okay? TikTok CEO getting grilled by our legislators, which is where we got that soundbite, Senator, I'm Singaporean, because they kept asking him if he was Chinese, and it was so embarrassing. As an American, oh, so embarrassing. Like, y'all wrote these damn questions down to grill him and didn't even know he's not Chinese? Please. Oh, this is why all the countries think we're dumb. Okay. Also, they ask him like the weirdest questions ever about whether or not TikTok is accessing users' Wi-Fi or if it can read messages or whatnot from people's phones. And I remember thinking, like, that's such a weird boomer question to ask. Why would you ask if it can access the Wi-Fi? That's so silly. Like, no, they're like, they just don't understand how technology works. Keep that in mind because it will be important later, okay? By March of 2024, we have a bill to ban TikTok that starts picking up traction. That's actually not a TikTok ban per se. The bill is primarily a package to provide aid and support to Ukraine and Israel. And the TikTok ban is sort of buried within that bill, within that package. That's important to note because it almost forces the hands of the government from a bipartisan perspective. They're not going to not vote for aid for these countries, even if they don't support a ban of TikTok outright. Okay, so the House passes the bill, which forces TikTok to either sell to a U.S. company or be banned. Then TikTok sues the federal government in May of 2024, basically saying the ban is unconstitutional. We know now that that was basically thrown out later, saying that it is constitutional. We're fast forwarding a bit here, but TikTok sues. Then Biden drops out from the 2025 presidential race and Trump joins TikTok, okay, and starts posting campaign-related stuff around the same time that VP Kamala Harris joins TikTok to promote her campaign. I just want to stop here to make a point. If the app is dangerous, why do y'all keep using it? Why are you using it to promote your campaign? Why are you campaigning on it? Why were your federal government employees using it 3 years after you said that it was dangerous for security risk issues? And why are the presidential candidates campaigning on the app if it's dangerous? Okay. In December, the Federal Appeals Court upheld the TikTok ban, basically pushing back on TikTok's claim that it violated Americans' First Amendment rights. Then, a couple days ago, finally, the Supreme Court put the final nail in the coffin, and they were like, girl, we upholding this ban. I don't care. And then you woke up this morning and logged onto TikTok and got a little notification saying TikTok can no longer be used for now. Actually, just to give you more accurately, the verbatim, it says, a law banning TikTok has been enacted in the U.S. Unfortunately, that means you can't use TikTok for now. We are fortunate that President Trump has indicated that he will work with us on a solution to reinstate TikTok once he takes office. Please stay tuned. That's the notification that pops up when you try to access TikTok, and you can click to learn more, which is where you can like download your TikTok data, or you can just close out the app. Basically, it's unusable. You can't use it. It's not available on any app store for download. From what I understand, VPNs are not working, girl. They were like, we're hip to that. You can't use no VPN. You cannot see TikTok right now. From what I also understand from people online from different countries, all of our accounts are still visible. They can still see our accounts. They can still comment on our accounts. They can still see our followers and our views. None of that data has been eliminated. Since before this even happened, like once the Supreme Court was like, we're banning it, we're upholding it, and then Trump made a comment about like, oh, we're going to try to save it. I was like, oh, this is on purpose. Okay. They're doing it on purpose. Create a problem, manufacture a problem, solve the problem. You are now a hero. Okay. So you're coming into this administration, or rather this administration is coming in with a win, which is what was wanted, right? As far as the ceasefire in Gaza, Biden basically gets to claim that as like his administration did that, right? Because that ceasefire just happened, right? So okay, Trump can't get that. Maybe I can get TikTok. I can win TikTok back, or I can reinstate TikTok. I can win favor with the American public that way. However, there's got to be, here's my tinfoil hat. Okay, I'm putting this on right now. I'm letting you know that the following is tinfoil hat activities. Okay, unhinged tinfoil activities for me. These are not, I don't have any like verified sources to give you. This is all speculation. This is just the musings of a mad woman, okay, who is a stay-at-home mom of two, who just has plenty of time to sit around and think of conspiracy theories when I'm being thrown up on or waking up at 3 a.m. because the baby wants to wake up at 3 a.m. Okay, so I'm rocking him back to sleep like, you know what? Something is going on 3 a.m. in the morning, holding the baby and thinking about conspiracy theories. Okay. So here we go. A couple of things that I've noticed. I noticed in 2023 that TikTok came out with this on this day feature where it would give us like a look back. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds like eerily familiar to Facebook. Like I think Facebook like bought TikTok, or they're working with TikTok. I thought this way back in 2023 because I was like, this on this day thing is like, it's giving meta, like it's very meta coded. That's so weird. Why would they do that? And then there was this option to post TikToks because I joined TikTok back in 2020. I joined TikTok back when like I used to, when I had Wes, when I had my first child, I used to download TikToks. If you are a long-time follower of me, you remember this. Wes used to wake up at like 3 a.m. just like Thomas does now, every morning. And so I would wake up, I would, be rocking him to sleep, and I would watch TikToks, and I would physically download the TikToks, save them to my phone, and then upload them to my Instagram stories. And I called them the daily TikTok drop. And I used to do this when I was on maternity leave, right? Okay. Then all of a sudden in 2022, I want to say, don't quote me, there became the option to share. When you click the share button on a video, it went directly to, you could post it directly to your Instagram stories. And I was like, And as someone who comes from a background where I was working with like, the tech side of the house in a large company, in a Fortune 500 company, I know that it takes some time to implement APIs. APIs connect different types of technology to one another. Okay, just stating plainly, okay, in layman's terms, right? So for me to connect TikTok with Instagram, I need to create an API to integrate them so that I can post directly from TikTok into Instagram's system so that when I click on the share to Instagram button, Instagram opens up. There has to be a connection made between the two, which means that those two companies have to interact with each other in some way, which means they have to in some sort be collaborating, because you wouldn't have the way to paste this video into Instagram unless I gave it to you. Right? Like you wouldn't know how to code that in unless I gave you the freaking destination code, right? Okay, there's the Mad Hatter is starting. So I was like, that's weird. And then now things are rapidly happening, right? Okay, so then Supreme Court upholds the ban. Then yesterday, the day before the app goes dark, people are noticing on Facebook that it's giving you like a pop-up that says like, do you want to link your TikTok? You want to link your TikTok account? Now, why the fuck would I want to link an app that's about to be banned? That's weird, Mark. Why are you asking me that, Marky Mark? Huh, strange. Then we hear another AI company is potentially going to purchase TikTok. Okay. I don't recall the name of the AI company, okay? But you can search Aaron Parnas. He is like a news TikToker / I guess Instagrammer now, was posting about it, but it's an AI company that had suggested or had, said that they were thinking about buying TikTok. The thing is, you can see the CEO of that AI company, but you can't see who actually owns them. Their ownership is private. And I was like, that's weird, because I was interested to see who owns that company who was saying they might buy TikTok, because I'd never heard of them. And in order for you to have enough money to buy TikTok, you have to be a pretty large corporation. TikTok's pretty big. There's like 170 million users and it generates billions of dollars. So you have to have a lot of money to buy a TikTok, right? How come I can't see who owns your company? This random AI company. Okay. I can see who the CEO is, but when I search ownership, it says that it's private. I got to a site that said like, oh, ownership is private for this company. And I was like, why? Strange. Okay. Then people start noticing on TikTok in the final days, okay, during the repass, all of our favorite like TikTokers are posting their goodbyes and restarting trends that like, we're at the beginning of TikTok and everybody's like, oh my gosh, like this is so heartfelt and it's just pulling on everybody's heartstrings and everybody's crying and mourning and sad, but also like, feeling happy and doom scrolling. And they're like, oh, I remember all the good times. And then people start noticing like, bitch, was that an Instagram ad on TikTok that I just rolled through? Why are the comments off? Then people notice Facebook has created a TikTok profile. Facebook, why do you need a TikTok account? Okay. So here's where the theories start coming in, where lots of people, myself included, are like, oh, Meta already bought TikTok. This is like a show. This is a stunt. And the White House even came out yesterday and was like, oh, this is like, just like a little stunt that they're pulling. This whole like TikTok is going dark, because the Biden administration claims like, we already said we are not going to uphold the ban. So you could have just stayed in operation. Whereas, rightfully so though, TikTok's like, yeah, but certain companies are going to receive fines if they keep our app. There's the potential for fines if we keep their app on the App Store. The government was like, well, we're not going to enforce the fines. TikTok's like, well, we're not going to trust that. So we're just going to go dark, right? Okay. So they go dark. I think that this is my final conspiracy theory, okay? I think that Meta and TikTok have been working behind the scenes for years. I think that all of this is a ruse to build up support for Donald Trump as he enters, and so that this administration enters in on a win, so that he is touted with saving TikTok. I think that TikTok agreed to sell some, maybe not all, to Meta, or has agreed to share aspects of either our data or, their algorithm, something. They compromised on something and gave Meta access to something. So either Meta owns outright or has an ownership stake now in TikTok. I think they've been working together with the Trump administration as well. As you guys may know, like all of the billionaire heavy hitters are going to the inauguration tomorrow, but some of the like former presidents aren't. Michelle Obama isn't. And it's weird because why is Zuckerberg, Bezos, the TikTok CEO, like why are they all sitting front row at the inauguration? Like it's just very Zuckerberg, like it's very strange. Okay. And it is very much giving oligarchy, but it's giving tech oligarchy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like America's always been an oligarchy, but now I feel like it's giving tech oligarchy. It's giving Meta and Amazon run the world. And it's very, very daunting. It's kind of scary. And it really does appear like there were back deals made for TikTok. And I do think that this shutdown is, in a sense, kind of performative, right? I do think it's a stunt. I do think it was performative, but I also think it's for a mass migration. I think they're migrating the system tonight. I think they're migrating the system overnight, and that's why they're shutting down, so that they can complete the work that needs to be done to migrate it over. I think that we're going to have access again. I think the goal has always been for Trump to come into office and then get rid of the ban and save TikTok, and everybody cheers and is happy. But then you log into TikTok and your algorithm is different. I think that we're going to have a single media state. I think that we're going to have, and we already do, have pretty much a monopoly. Meta owns every large social media app pretty much, damn near, except for like Snapchat, right? And Twitter, well, X now. But Elon Musk and Zuckerberg are all a part of that kind of like billionaires gang. So they're in cahoots. But it is very much a monopoly. I think that we're going to get TikTok back by the end of this week. I'm not too worried about not having TikTok back because I do think that that was the final play. I think we are going to get TikTok back in a couple days, end of the week at most. But I think the algorithm's going to be different. It's going to be bastardized in some way. It's not going to be the same. I think the goal was always to shut it down, to create mass hysteria, but also to migrate things over. I think that Instagram has a hand in what's going on, and that they've either always been working, not always, but the past few years been working behind the scenes with TikTok, or they were the kind of finally throwing their hat in the ring to say, we'll buy it. But that's what I think is happening. All of these are conspiracy theories. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you're on Spotify, feel free to DM me. If you're not following me on Instagram, follow me. If you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. I almost said follow me already. That's a little aggressive. If you're not following me on Instagram already, go ahead and give me a follow. Feel free to shoot me a DM. I try to respond to my DMs. As I grow, it's getting a little bit more difficult, but I promise to always get back to you guys, even if it's a little bit later. Okay. I try to make sure I get back to everyone. Yeah, let me know what you think of this podcast episode. I think next week is going to be crazy. I'm really thinking about doing this podcast every Sunday afternoon. So hopefully this goes live by noon. Hopefully you're listening to it by the afternoon, about the prior week's activities. This next week is going to be a fucking doozy. From what I understand, there's going to be a ton of executive orders that are going in day one. We're already hearing about mass deportations. Like, this is about to be nuts. Please keep your peace. Trust yourself amidst chaos, okay? Find some ways to ground yourself, learn some grounding techniques, find some ways to, I'm not going to tell you to touch grass, because I feel like people who say that are they're being a little bit intellectually dishonest. Like, it's very difficult for us to get away from technology at this stage of capitalism. Okay. But find things that can soothe you. Okay. Put on a playlist that's like calming. Put on a calming playlist. Go on Pinterest. There's nothing but pretty pictures on Pinterest. Okay. And just like vibe out. You know what I mean? Do things that ground you. Read. I love to read. So I don't care if it's an audiobook or on your Kindle or like a physical book. Read. Do something that pulls you away from the chaos of the news cycle, because the goal of the news cycle is to keep you engaged. Okay. Even if it's by giving you anxiety, it's keeping you engaged. It's keeping you on the app. It's keeping you arguing with people in the comments. Okay. Just remember to be mindful of that and to keep your peace. And I will talk to you guys next Sunday. Okay. I hope to be more consistent with these this year, and keep them going, because I love you guys' responses to the podcast. I love, I just love it. I love doing the podcast. It's very fun for me. I get to like yap for like 40 minutes and I don't have to worry about what I look like or cutting this into 40 individual fucking Instagram stories to post on my stories. So yeah, I love it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for spending time with me and for listening to all of this if you made it to the end. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Okay, love you. Bye.